At the start of Russia's all-out war, the Russian occupying army established a filtration camp on the premises of a Belarusian state enterprise where Ukrainians were detained and tortured, according to Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Investigations have uncovered a network of filtration camps established by Russian forces in Ukraine and Belarus, where Ukrainian prisoners of war and civilians endure severe human rights abuses, including torture. Reports indicate that these camps are designed to extract information from detainees, many of whom are accused of resisting Russian occupation or labeled as spies, often resulting in forced disappearances. Survivors of Russian and Belarusian filtration camps describe overcrowded conditions, inadequate sanitation, and an atmosphere of fear and violence in such places. The existence of this camp in Belarus was uncovered in an investigation by journalists from the Schemes Project, the Belarusian Investigative Center, Radio Svoboda's Belarusian service, with support from the Reckoning Project for documenting war crimes and the Cyber Partisans hacker group. Journalists identified the exact location of the filtration camp in Belarus using testimonies from former detainees, Russian propaganda videos, satellite imagery, and data obtained by hackers. The camp was set up on the premises of a building belonging to the Belarusian state enterprise Pripyatsky Alliance in Narulia, near the Belarus-Ukraine border. It operated from at least March to May 2022, detaining both military personnel and civilians, including children. According to the investigation, human rights defenders received numerous reports that the camp in Narulia was among the most brutal in its treatment of prisoners. Former captives and their relatives recalled severe beatings and harsh interrogations. Radio Svoboda journalist Dmytro Zulai estimates that hundreds of Ukrainian civilians may have been taken to Narulia by Russian forces. Civilians were transported from the Hostomel airport in several groups. It happened from early to mid-March, and again when the Russians threatened from Kyiv Oblast. Every person from these so-called groups reported stopping in Belarus, he explained. Currently, some Ukrainians who passed through the filtration camp at Pripyatsky Alliance in Narulia still remain in captivity, many held in Russian correctional colonies.
Syrian government troops battled insurgents inside the country's largest city Aleppo for the first time since 2016, while warplanes targeted rebel supply lines on the city's edge, state media reported Saturday. Insurgents broke through government defense lines in Aleppo on Friday and entered the city's western neighborhood with little resistance. The insurgents launched their shock offensive in Aleppo and Idlib countryside on Wednesday and wrestled control of dozens of villages and towns along the way, including a strategic town south of Aleppo. The pro-government Al Watan newspaper reported airstrikes on the edge of Aleppo city, targeting rebel supply lines. It posted a video of a missile landing on a gathering of fighters and vehicles, in a street lined with trees and buildings. 20 fighters were killed in the airstrikes that targeted rebel reinforcements, said the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which monitors the country's unresolved civil war. Aleppo residents reported clashes and gunfire, and some were fleeing the fighting. Schools and government offices were closed Saturday as most people stayed indoors, according to Sham FM radio, a pro-government station. Bakeries were open. In social media post, the insurgents were pictured outside of Aleppo's citadel, the medieval palace in the old city center, and one of the largest in the world. In cell phone videos, the insurgents recorded themselves having conversations with residents they visited at home, seeking to reassure them they will cause no harm. State media reported that a number of terrorists, including sleeper cells, have infiltrated parts of the city. Government troops chased them and arrested a number who posed for pictures near city landmarks, state media said. On a state TV morning show Saturday, commentators said army reinforcements and Russia's assistance will repel the terrorist groups, blaming Turkey for supporting the insurgents' push into Aleppo and Idlib provinces. Russia's state news agency TASS quoted Oleg Ignatiuk, a Russian Defense Ministry official coordinating in Syria, as saying that Russian warplanes targeted and killed 200 militants who launched the offensive in the northwest on Friday. It provided no further details. Aleppo has not been attacked by opposition forces since they were ousted from eastern neighborhoods in 2016 following a grueling military campaign in which Syrian government forces were backed by Russia, Iran and its allied groups. The attack on Aleppo followed weeks of simmering low-level violence, including government attacks on opposition-held areas. Turkey, which has backed Syrian opposition groups, failed in its diplomatic efforts to prevent the Syrian government attacks, which were seen as a violation of a 2019 agreement sponsored by Russia, Turkey and Iran to freeze the line of the conflict.